What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the next episode of the HMA Fantasy Wrestling Podcast. This episode is going to be a collaboration with Earl of the Open Mat. We are very, very excited for that. But let's just get into a little bit of what this episode is, and I'll introduce who we have here, and we'll get going. So, again, episode number 21 of the HMA Fantasy Podcast. We're going to be getting into our newest project, which we've kind of teased for a little bit, the NCAA Champion Duels. What we are doing with this is we went over the last 16 years of NCAA champion lineups. So, for example, in 2019, all of the NCAA champions, we put those guys into a dual team, called them the year 2019, champions. And we went through and we seeded this bracket. And we're gonna get through the bracket and determine in the last 16 years, so since 2004, who was the best lineup overall. But before we get any more into that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce who all I have with me here today. So starting off first, Mr. Jude Swisher. How you doing, Jude? Sound.
Nice.
There you
Good
go.
thing I muted my mic. I'm doing great. Jacob, how are you today?
Pretty good, man. Any day's a good day when you get to talk wrestling. Next, we have a new assistant coach for the Badgers, Seth Gross. How you doing, Seth?
Doing great, man. Can't complain. Excited to do this bracket here, and fired up to be a coach at University of Wisconsin now. So good week.
That's awesome. We're super excited for you. That was really cool to see. And next, we're gonna have Jack Mueller. How you doing today, Jack?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little pissed off with how my morning's going so far, but we'll win it. We'll win today.
I don't know why. Why is your morning going so bad?
Well, first off, I thought this research wouldn't take very long, but then I started deep diving, getting really excited, and it took me a lot longer than I thought it would. And I wanted to sit outside, and then I realized I didn't bring my headphones. So that's pretty much the main reason.
Well,
Nice.
All uphill from here, man. Can't get worse in the day than not being able to sit outside.
Dude, I just want to be outside, man. Oh, also, I've got the skin disease under my armpit. It's crazy. It's disgusting. I thought I had the bubonic plague. I thought I had it. I was like, because that's one of the main symptoms is I swear there's pus under my arm right now.
Gross.
It's disgusting. And that's a main symptom of the bubonic plague is pus-filled balls under your arm.
Oh, no.
These aren't as big as theirs, but man, dude, all yesterday I was like, I got the plague. I've got the plague.
Well, at least it's good to know that your balls aren't that big.
No.
We'll move on. In our last guest, we have Earl from the Open Mat. How you doing, Earl?
Well, I'm doing much better than Jack, I guess. My skin's good. I had a lot of fun the last time with you guys, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no pus balls under the arm is always a good day.
Dude, I'm freaking out here.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into this thing a little bit because we are doing, for the first round, at least 2 duels per episode. So this is going to be a little bit longer. So we need to go ahead and get into it. But before we do, let's just lay down some ground rules, some things that we're going to abide by here. And I have one question that we need to agree on. So first of all, like we said, we took these NCAA lineups, put them in a dual team. We're going to duel them together. When we do it, what we're doing is we're taking each of these wrestlers at this point in their career, right? So that's the first thing to remind people of. And the example I like to use is a guy like Kyle Dake, who's a 4-time national champion. Well, 2010, Kyle Dake was a freshman, right? And so in the 2010 lineup in here, when we see Kyle Dake's name, we have to remember that we are only talking about one-time freshman Kyle Dake. Right, we're not talking about the 4-timer, college legend. We're just talking about freshman national champ. And then in 2011, we're talking about Kyle Dake, who's a 2-timer as a sophomore, right? We're only talking about these wrestlers and their previous accolades. So, right, this year and their previous accolades, nothing ahead of time, because obviously we're going to use those ahead of time accolades for another dual team. The other thing is, especially with guys like Kyle Dake, Logan Stieber, guys that won multiple national titles, there is a possibility of them hitting, right? And so if they ever do hit, if we ever see, Kyle Dake versus, well, we wouldn't see Kyle Dake versus Kyle Dake because he was in 4 different weight classes. But, Stieber, for example, wrestled the same weight classes multiple years. And so if we see Stieber versus Stieber, instead of talking about a guy versus himself, which is just kind of an odd conversation, what we're going to do at that point is we're going to pick the runner-ups of that year, right? So if Logan Stieber 2013 meets Logan Stieber 2014, then we're going to talk about who they wrestled in the finals versus each other. I think that was the only fair way to really talk about it, because it's not really a fun, or it's just a weird situation to talk about somebody versus themselves. So there is that. The other thing that I was going to ask you guys about is, when we did the all-decade duels, we did have landmines. Do we want to do landmines for this or not? My suggestion is, if we do it, then we only do 1 per duel, no matter what. But we can not do it too. So what are you guys thinking? Anybody have any thoughts on it?
I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to vote no on the landmines, because, this is already going to be it's taken a lot of research, pretty objectively here. There's a lot of, especially the early 2000s guys, it's difficult to find a lot of stuff on them. So, the less stuff that I have to worry about, the less variables I have, then the easier my job will be. So,
sounds good.
That's why I'm going to vote no on the landmines.
Y'all agree with that? Or anybody in favor of them?
I'm okay with that.
Cool. That's what I was kind of thinking, was just to not have anything like that. So we're having less crazy stuff go on. But we'll do that. Yeah. So no landmines. We're just going to go through and talk about it. And for, I don't imagine there's going to be many bonus points in this thing. We're talking about national champions versus national champions. But for bonus points, we have to have a majority rules. And of course, for wins, we have to have majority rules. So, for example, if we have a wrestler A versus wrestler B, the majority has to rule on which one wins. And then within the winners, right? So if 4 of us voted for, wrestler A to win, the majority within that 4 have to vote on bonus points in order to have bonus points. So I think that's pretty much all the rules that I've got, all the things that kind of jumped out to me that could happen. If anybody else thinks of anything, let me know. But are you guys ready to go ahead and get into this first duel?
Let's do it.
Sir.
Sweet. Let's do it. All right. So we're going to start off this thing with our very first duel, which is going to be the number 1 team in the land, 2005, versus the number 16 team in this bracket, 2008. Man, it's crazy just to look at a team that is seeded last and look at all these guys and be like,
yeah,
it's the last seeded team in the bracket. But, in order to actually, before we get into it, again, also to get these brackets, what we did was we seeded based on their national championships, All-American honors, and Hodge Trophy placements. And so, up to their year, again, we only used the wrestler and their previous experience. We used, if they were a national champion, they got 1 point. If they were an All-American, they got 1 point, or I got a half a point. If they were Hodge Trophy winner that year, they got 3 points. And so that accrued as the years went on. So multiple time national champion would have multiple points for national champions, multiple points for All-American, and so forth. But
okay, so Jacob, I have a question. Should
Yeah.
I even mention their 2006 results or 2007 results?
I think we can. I wouldn't too much. If there's like a head-to-head matchup, I think it's definitely good to at least like acknowledge it. But we can do whatever we want. But I think that it's good to try to stick as much as we can to like 2005 Joe Dubuque instead of 2006 Joe Dubuque.
Sounds good to me.
You know what I mean? We can definitely use that stuff though as kind of a talking point. But let's go ahead and get into it. Jude, you had 2008, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Do you just want to tell us who's on the lineup, and then we can get into the first match?
Yes, sir. Okay, so the 2008 Division I NCAA champions, starting at 125 pounds, it goes Angel Escobedo, Coleman Scott, Jay Jaggers, Brett Metcalf, Jordan Lean, Mark Perry, Keith Gavin, Mike Pusillo, Phil Davis, and Dustin Fox. And then who did 2005?
That was Earl.
No, it was Jack.
No, it was Jack. It was Jack. All right, Jack.
Yeah, so Joe Dubuque, this was his first of 2 national titles. Travis Lee, this was his 4th All-American and 2nd national title. Tion Ware, this was his 2nd national title and 3rd All-American. Zach Esposito, this was his 2nd time in the finals, 1st time being the champ. Ryan Bertine, this was his 4th All-American and 2nd national championship. Johnny Hendricks, this was his 2nd time All-Americaning and his 1st time being a national champ. Chris Pendleton, this was his 3rd time All-Americaning and 2nd time being a national champ. And then Greg Jones, this was his 3rd national championship. Jake Rochelle, this was his 2nd national championship. And Steve Mako, this was his 2nd national championship. So,
awesome.
Loaded weight.
Loaded.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. Do you guys, looking at this duel, is there any matches that jump out as the best match, and is there any one that we want to like particularly end on to kind of have a good ending, or should we start at 125?
We've got to end at 165. Like
Sounds
that's
good.
like the best rivalry of that decade for sure. I don't know if it's the best rivalry. It's one of the best rivalries in college wrestling, period.
Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. I hate always ending up with the heavyweights and Russian or whatever. So let's do that. Start off at 174. We got Chris Pendleton versus Keith Gavin. At this point, I believe this is Chris Pendleton's first national championship, or was it his second? Is it second? Okay. I always get that confused with Askren and then the 4 years there. But Chris Pendleton, he's a 2-time national champion at this point. Keith Gavin at this point is a 2-time finalist and a 1-time champion. So,
I
man,
thought he was 2-time champion.
I'm gonna kick it to Earl here because you know way more about these guys than we do. So, what are you thinking here?
Well, they both had a common opponent in the finals. They both wrestled Askren. Gavin, was kind of commendable as far as he went after him when everybody else wanted to kind of stall and avoid Askren. But, when it comes down to it, I have a hard time picking, Gavin over Pendleton. So I'd have to go Pendleton.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The funny thing is, I just literally got done saying we don't need to look too far into the future. But these guys actually, I did find a match where they hit. It was in freestyle in like 2011 or something. So it was way after.
Nice.
Yeah. So obviously we're not taking that really into account, but Keith Gavin did beat Chris Pendleton in freestyle 2 periods to nothing. But yeah, that was actually the first thing that I saw when I looked it up. And then I went back and watched, matches again of these guys in college. And I agree. I think that Pendleton's just a little too slick for Gavin. And yeah, the common opponent there is pretty big too, with Chris Pendleton just absolutely having Ben Askren's number, and Ben Askren beating Keith Gavin. So I'm going to go Chris Pendleton as well.
Jude, can you tell me about Keith Gavin's senior season or this season?
Yeah, well, so to my understanding, so we wrestled obviously 174 pounds, and then I thought that he was a 2-time national champ, but I might be incorrect on that. But this was his second finals appearance, the last one being the year before. He ended up, he had a pretty good national tournament. He beat Jay Borschel, and then Stephen Luke in the finals. But as far as the season goes, I wasn't able to find a whole lot on it. But he was the 1 seed going into NCAAs, so certainly had a dominant season, or he stayed on top as far as it goes.
Yeah, Gavin was undefeated, and Luke, who he beat in the finals, ended up being undefeated champion the following season.
Oh man,
Man, if this was freestyle, I would pick Gavin. Like, undoubtedly, I think he's such a wizard at freestyle. Like, he coached me for about a month when he was at UVA, and then he left and went to Oklahoma. I mean, if it's folk style, I guess I got to go Pendleton, especially a senior Pendleton.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Pendleton too.
But if it was freestyle, I'd pick Keith.
Yeah,
and I don't think it would be a question for me. He already beat him, but
right.
All
Okay.
right.
I'll take Pendleton as well.
We've all got Pendleton. I'm not even gonna do the thing that Sam does and put all the checks. I'm just gonna put one. But all right, so we all got Pendleton. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to the next match, which is going to be Greg Jones of West Virginia versus Mike Pucillo. Greg Jones at this point, again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be, was a 3-time champ in 2005. And Mike Pucillo 1 time, I believe.
Yeah, I think he was 1.
But yeah, do you guys have any background on these guys? Jack, do you want to? I'll kick it to you for Greg Jones.
Yeah, so Greg Jones was a champ in 02, 04, and 05. In 04, he had an interesting weight class where he beat Texas native Ben Helzer in the finals of Northern Illinois. But Ben Helzer beat Jake Rochelle, who's the 197-pounder in this weight, or on this team, in the semis. In 05, he beat Tyler Bayer in the finals and Matt Pell of Missouri in the quarters. Honestly, I'm not too knowledgeable about 184 back then, and to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of that weight class in general. I'm a big.
Not even this year.
No,
not even
never.
2020s, dude. It was,
you know what?
Exciting.
Zahid Valencia revolutionized 184, but outside of him and maybe Bo Nickel, it's been a boring weight for me to watch.
Not even Miles Martin.
I
love Miles. I love Miles too.
Yeah.
Jack's just upset because those guys don't have balls in their armpit.
Stop bringing it up. I'm trying to get it behind me.
Jacob.
I might have to go put a hot towel under my arm at some point. But he beat Josh Koscheck in 02, and then Greg Parker of Princeton, who is a name that constantly comes up when you go back there. But there wasn't like a huge name that he beat in the NCAAs. But, I mean, he's a 3-time national champ, so can't go wrong with that.
Right. Well, let me tell you a little something about Mike Pucillo, because in this very tournament in 2008, he had wins over Jake Varner and Phil Keddy, who's Jacob's favorite Iowa wrestler of all time. But yeah, no. So Pucillo, this was his second finals appearance. He was runner-up in 2000. Oh, wait, no. Excuse me. He was a runner-up the following year in 2009. But this was his first finals appearance. And he beats Jake Varner, who was, I want to say, like a sophomore. Wait, how old was Varner at the time? 2008.
Yeah, he was a sophomore.
Yeah, sophomore Varner, in the finals, and does it in tiebreakers. And Mike ended up having several close, like 1-point matches throughout this tournament, and he beat Raymond Jordan, Phil Keddy, and Jake Varner to get this was his, I believe, his second AA and his first finals appearance. So yeah, Mike Pucillo, Ohio State.
Yeah, I'll go first. Just going back through watching some of the matches, Greg Jones was so good, man. The dude was lights out on his feet. He was when you see those really tall, like lanky guys, I feel like growing up, they're either like really good or they don't know how to use their body. And he definitely was super good. I mean, he was really tall and lanky. I mean, he was also, had some muscle on him, but he was just a big dude, and he was so quick and athletic. And just lights out on his feet, like I said. And so I'll take Greg Jones here with a comfortable win.
I'll follow you. So yeah, wrestling those tall, lanky guys like Seth really sucks. Just kidding. But I'm gonna go 3-time champ Greg Jones as well.
Yep, I'm in on Greg Jones too. Possible bonus points in the match.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to go Greg Jones. The only thing that's holding me back is Mike Busillo has a win over an Olympic gold medalist. So that's kind of a big win on the resume. Even though I know at this point Varner wasn't what he is today, but yeah, I'll follow go Greg Jones. Not in like a comfortable win, but I'm gonna say 1 point because I mean Busillo's good at keeping those close matches. So
yeah, fair.
For sure. All right. Well, we've got Greg Jones moving on. And sorry, I'm trying to fix something up here so I can put the score down at the bottom. But so far, 2005 has taken the first 2 matches with Chris Pendleton and Greg Jones both earning a decision over their opponent. And we are heading down to 197 pounds where Jake Rochold will meet Phil Davis. And we'll go ahead and kick it to Jack. Tell us a little bit about Jake.
So this was Jake's second of 3 national titles. He beat on his route to the championship in 2005. He beat Phil Davis, BJ Patton, and Sean Stender in the finals. Sean Stender being the man who downed y'all's boy John Tringe in the semis. And then in 2006, he also beats Phil Davis in the finals. So a couple of wins over opponent here.
John Tringe is the man. I don't know why you're throwing shade over here.
I'm not throwing shade. I'm not throwing
That sounded like a little bit of shade, Jack.
Dude, I'm still bitter. Hazewinkle, if you're watching this, you're my guy, man. You're my guy.
Should have fought for him more during it, man. Come on.
I freaking did. I was like screaming at my computer trying to get y'all to listen.
I don't know. I think at one point you said, yeah, Poeta, Hazewinkle, whatever. It's a Tringe all the way. But
I don't know. I think I definitely heard that. I think those words came out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Jack.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So there's Jake Rochold. Phil Davis, Penn State guy, our resident Penn State guy, Jude Swisher. Tell us.
Me. I'm the Penn State guy. So, okay, interesting thing about Phil Davis. He won this as a senior in 2008. And to my understanding, he was Penn State's first 4-time All-American. In this bracket, he ended up having a win over how do you pronounce this guy's name? Win Michalek? How do you say it? Michalek?
Michalek, I think.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I butchered that. He had a win over win. But also in this bracket, there's John Glenn, Max Askren, Craig Brester. First 4, he was at this point 4-time All-American. I believe he placed like 7th, 8th, 3rd, 1st, something along that lines. But yeah, so Phil Davis, I mean, incredibly talented wrestler, and I kind of like him in this match. I'm not gonna lie, because I can't pick against Penn State guys. It's not in my code.
But he's beaten him.
Yeah, but that was in 2005. That's 2005.
And 2006, he beat him in the finals.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm a dum-dum then. Okay. Well, Jacob, who are you going to pick in this match?
Oh, man. Don't put me on the spot here. I didn't have the pleasure of watching these guys, unfortunately, because I was still in my basketball days. Man, I think I got to go Rochold here. Just had some incredible wins. He beat Phil Davis in a final. I know that that's not the year we're talking about, but I got to go Rochold here. It's hard to ignore a head-to-head matchup, even if it's not, the year we're talking about at any point. It's really hard to ignore that.
Yeah, well, maybe.
All right, so Jude, you have Phil Davis. I have
Yeah, I'll take Phil
Rochalt.
Davis.
Seth, where are you leaning?
I got Rochelle too. I think just overall better, a little bit better career in those head-to-heads. I think is a big deal. Even though, yeah, like you said, 2005, 2006. Obviously, being a 4-time All-American is pretty good, but I think national titles are a little bit better there. So I'm going with Rochelle.
For sure. All right, Jack.
Oh, I've got Rochelle for sure. I've got him for sure here.
Awesome.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
That sounds like a bonus point for sure.
Sure. Yeah. It might be.
Oh,
Why? Tell us why.
I don't know. I mean, he just dominated him every time he wrestled him. I can't say bonus though at this weight. It's so hard. I mean, no one gets bonus really unless they're a freak at this weight.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna say 3. It'd be interesting to see this though. This matchup because
Yeah.
Phil Davis gave him good matches when he was younger. So I mean, he does have a little bit of an argument. Like in 06, the score was never mind. It was 10-3. But yeah, I mean, I got to go Rochelle. I'm not going to go bonus though.
All right. And Earl, what's your take on the match? While I
Jake Rochelle, him and Greg Jones, for my money, are 2 of the most overlooked 3-time champions. And it's hard for me to unsee the head-to-head win the next year that was 10-3. I don't think he beats a senior Phil Davis 10-3, but I do think Rochelle's the win.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So we all have Rochelle except for Jude, who is our Penn State homer. We'll just,
nice.
You vote the way you vote, man.
Yes,
but heavyweight matchup, Steve Mocco versus Dustin Fox. And I'll tell you, I was listening the other day to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast, Ryan Warner. He's kicking butt over there. But the Steve Mocco podcast, I'm telling you, like, watching the videos and stuff, he's a scary dude. And just listening to his voice, I was a little bit shaking in my boots. It's a scary man. But Steve Mocco versus Dustin Fox. Jude, do you want to go first?
Here, excuse me. I want to hear a real quick little funny story about Mocco. So let's see. So our backyard at my house is just a total wreck. It's a total wreck. And so we have guys coming over landscaping, and I'll go out and help them, and I'll work with them. And one of them was a wrestler, and I was talking to him, and he wrestled for my high school back in like a long, long time ago, before I was even born. And he's like, yeah, we were like one of the best in the country, and we went to this tri-meet with Bald Eagle, who again was another one of those really good teams, and Blair Academy came up and wrestled him, and I was like, oh, cool. What weight did you wrestle? And he was like, yeah, I weighed like 182, but they bumped me up to heavyweight. I was like, oh boy. I was like, you didn't happen to wrestle Mocco, did you? And he's like, I wrestled Mocco, Jude. And so this guy that I met landscaping, turns out he wrestled Mocco in high school, and the match lasted like 23 seconds. So I don't know, just a funny story, and it was kind of cool to hear at the time. But nothing. That's all I got on Steve Mocco.
All right. Well, what do you got on Dustin Fox?
Dustin Fox, listen, Northwestern. He was the 1 seed going into the 2008 wrestling championships. He was a 2-time AA as a senior. This was his senior year. And he had like 3 or 4 1-point victories in a row. He ended up beating JD Bergman in the finals in OT. But that's for the most part, that's all I could find on Dustin Fox. And yeah, 2-time AA, 1-time champ.
Yep. All right, Jack, what do you got?
This was Mocco's second national championship. He beat Cole Conrad in the finals. In 03, he beat an Air Force guy in the finals. I thought that was interesting.
That is pretty cool.
They had someone representing. I mean, there's so much I could say about Steve Mocco. One of the meanest guys in history, but seemed like a nice guy off the mat. And but he just had a like he just had a presence. When he'd step in a room, you knew that he was there. Someone that people feared to wrestle for sure. I was just thinking, like, what if Steve Maka was only 70 pounds bigger than me only, and they sent me out to wrestle him? I just like roll over. Like, I would be absolutely terrified if I had to go out and wrestle Steve Maka.
Agreed.
He's my favorite wrestler. He was my favorite wrestler whenever I was young. When he lost to Cole Conrad in 06, I actually bawled crying. I was bawling crying in the arena. Like, I can't believe he lost. No. He's my
Oh my
first
gosh.
favorite wrestler. And he was just a stud. And yeah, so that's Steve Maka.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if we got to talk about who's winning here. I think we might got to talk about bonus points.
Yeah, I'm
Might
not
be
going to
the
debate you on
discussion.
that one, Seth.
Well, Earl had an interesting stat, I think, on Steve Mako. And his senior year, was it senior or junior year that he had 18 pens and 17 of them were in the first period?
Yeah, it was this year because this was his Hodge Trophy season.
So that's a lot of pens. I don't think I got that many in my career. But
Yeah.
I think we got to go at least a major for the match.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I'm good with that. Major for
I
Mako.
think it'll be a major. Earl, you said this was his Hodge Trophy winning year.
Yeah, it was. He won the Hodge and he was undefeated. I think this was his second undefeated season. I think he was undefeated when he won the previous title.
Yep. Man. Yeah, so it's Steve Mako for a major decision for me. Which way are you leaning, Earl? I think it's probably Mako, but
Definitely Mako, and kind of to share you guys' sentiments. I talked to him maybe 5 or 6 years ago on a phone interview, and I've talked to a bunch of big name guys over the years, and the 5 or 10 minutes before I was supposed to talk to him, like I felt like intimidated, and I had to like mentally smack myself in the face and say, you're in your mid 30s, dude. You're talking to another man on the phone and you're intimidated. But that's just kind of the presence that he had over everybody out there wrestling, and I guess just people watching him too. But yeah, I definitely got the win for him, and I'd probably be okay with a bonus.
all right. So I think we're all uniform on a major decision.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Major decision for Steve Mako. And just to update you guys as well as our viewers, first of all, if you are not watching us on video, you can head over to YouTube and watch us on the Home Mat Advantage YouTube, so you can actually see the lineups and our beautiful faces talking.
Are we live on Twitter right now?
We are live on Twitter and Facebook, and so you guys listening in are getting a sneak peek. This episode will not actually be posted until probably later today or tomorrow. But the stars that I just put in, I put stars in for Hodge Trophy winners, just so that we're reminded, because some of these guys won multiple Hodges or won titles at different years or whatever, and so I wanted to just make sure we knew that these are the Hodge Trophy winners this year. But Steve Mako with the major decision over Dustin Fox, and that will move the score to being 13-0. So we'll just go right back around to the top. Joe Dubuque, Angel Escobedo. I know that I researched this one a lot and still am just I still don't know exactly which way I'm going to end up going.
Yeah.
So we'll start off as we've been doing. Let Jack tell us a little bit about Joe Dubuque.
So Joe Dubuque, this was his first of 2 national championships. He beat Sam Hazewinkle in the semis and Kyle Ott in the finals. The year before, he got 8th, and he lost in the pigtails and actually came back All-American, and then got he injury defaulted out. He was 30 seconds left in the match with Matt Valenti, and injury defaulted, and then injury defaulted again. But I just thought that was a cool stat, losing in the pigtails, coming all the way back. He was the 5 seed in 2005, and yeah, I mean, he was a stud. He wore his hair up whenever he wrestled. He had super long, like, red hair. He looked like Syndrome because The Incredibles had just come out. He was pretty funny, yeah.
Nice.
Very
Nice.
cool. On the other end of the spectrum, Jude, Angel Escobedo.
All right, Escobedo was, I believe, at this time a sophomore. Is that correct? Yeah. So sophomore year, 2008. He had just come off of, I believe, a 4th place finish from the 2007 NCAA Wrestling Championships, where he lost to Troy Nickerson in the 3rd, 4th place match. And he comes out here as a sophomore, and he I'm gonna pull up the bracket. Give me a hot second. Yeah, he ends up having a bunch of really close matches in a row. I don't think, he didn't score any bonus points. 2-point, 3-point matches the whole time up until the finals against Jason Ness, and he ends up beating him 10-3. With, I believe it was like he scored 7 points in the last minute of the match. But in that bracket, there was obviously Jason Ness, but he beat Charlie Fallick. Anthony Robles was in that bracket, as well as my coach, Mark McKnight. So he would go on to All-American twice more in the future, close it out with, I believe, he had like Indiana's 3rd best season of all time, or not season, career of all time for Indiana. So yeah, it's Angel Escobedo, and now he's the head coach there. So
awesome. This is where, well, actually, before I say anything, I'm going to kick it over to Earl, because these next couple of matches I think are pretty swayable. I think the first 3-4 we talked about were pretty clear cut for most of us, but we're getting into more of the tougher decisions here. So I want to hear what Earl's got to say on this match.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the ones I've went back and forth about. If it was the senior year, Joe Dubuque, it'd be much easier for me. He wasn't necessarily a huge, one of the favorites to win this year. Escobedo, he beat Ness. I'm pretty sure he won the Big Ten title that year as well. I really have to go towards Escobedo for this one, but to be honest, I could probably be swayed the other way. It's pretty close.
The thing that's making me lean Angel Escobedo is because of the cool he can keep in really tight matches. I mean, he won many overtime matches in his college career, and especially in the future was able to not only hold on to a lead, but score late, and I think in that case he has a really good match tactic, match strategy mindset, and I'm gonna pick Escobedo here in this match.
All right, I'll go next. So I'm gonna go Dubuque, and I'm gonna do it because I did. Did they overlap at all? Was Escobedo like a red shirt when Joe Dubuque was a senior?
Yeah, they would have. Yeah, he redshirted Dubuque.
See, there's a mental thing to that. Dubuque being a senior, Escobedo being a freshman, even though it's not the same year, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's like it's hard to overcome that. And I know we shouldn't look at transitive properties, but
but I'm gonna do it anyway.
yeah, I'll leave it out because it's in a different year. But I'm gonna go Dubuque. I'm gonna go Dubuque.
I'll jump in next because I know which way I'm leaning. I'm also going to go Dubuque, and I'm doing this because I went way back and forth on this one so many times. It was Joe Dubuque initially hardcore, and then I went Angel Escobedo, and then I finally settled on Joe Dubuque. But the deciding factor for me was I think I was letting a 2010 or a later year's Escobedo kind of cloud my judgment, because I went back and I watched a bunch of his matches, and I remember, like, obviously he was great. He won a national title in 2008, but for me personally, I think that he was a lot better in later years, and I think that I watched the match with McDonough, and
I watched that too.
He kind of handled him. And so I was really impressed by that. And I think that kind of clouded my judgment. And I had to get back to 2005, 2008. And when I went back to that, I think that Joe Dubuque might be a little bit more. I think that he edges out a really close match. But I'm going to go with Joe Dubuque on this one.
Was Joe Dubuque a junior in this in 2005? Yeah. Okay. Well.
So I guess that leaves it down to me.
Yep, I had to do it.
I'm gonna go with Angel Escobedo.
Nice.
And for the win there, and man, he was so good, and I think he was. I mean, he obviously got a little bit better, but he was freaking really good in 2008. And I remember watching. It was a close match. He ended up beating up on Ness and just beat some really good guys that year. And I think that, yeah, like I said, I think that was one of his better years. And yeah, I guess that's the main thing. I just think that he was that good that early in his career, and I think that he would have beat Joe Dubuque, I guess.
Yeah. Good take,
Yeah.
Seth. Good take.
Yeah, good take. I don't know, man. I remember watching him, man, and he was just I've seen a couple of Joe Dubuque's matches, but I remember I liked Angel Escobedo a lot, and man, he was good, and he always found a way to win those close matches.
Yeah.
Like I should have reminded you before that who was Angel Escobedo's coach at one point? Joe Dubuque.
Uh-oh.
It's the daddy factor, man.
Uh-oh.
But yeah,
I'm sure they might have wrestled in the room. We'll have to ask them sometime.
I would love to hear.
Tweeted them. They have 100% wrestled. Who would win this match?
Yeah,
we should just someone get Angel on the horn.
I would absolutely love to hear it. But the next one, jumping down to 133 pounds, Travis Lee of Cornell versus Coleman Scott of Okie State. This one I'm interested in hearing you guys' perspectives on, because for me, looking back, I really leaned more Coleman, but then, social media was kind of really like, I had a lot of people going, Travis Lee. People are sleeping on Travis Lee because of, recency and blah, 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 and hearing a lot of really good things. And I didn't have a whole lot of research on Travis Lee, so I'm excited to hear about that. But Jude, do you want to start us off and tell us a little bit about Coleman Scott?
Okay. Coleman Scott, this was his first and only national title for Oklahoma. 4-time AA, he went 8th, 5th, 2nd, 1st. In the finals, it's probably like a minute and 20-second match, because he gets a bottom leg cradle off of a takedown and just pins Slayton, Joey Slayton, yeah. And in this bracket, lots and lots of really, really good wrestlers. Slayton, Frank Gomez, who was a national champ. Was Kennedy ever a champ, or was he just a 4-time AA?
No, he was a 3-time AA.
3-time AA. Excuse me. I'm sorry. But he had a win over Kennedy in the semifinals, and we all know what Coleman Scott went on to do. 2012, he was a bronze medalist at the Olympics, and ended up having a really good freestyle career as well. But yeah, senior Coleman Scott, national champ.
Cool. Jack, tell us about the other side of things for Travis Lee.
So Travis Lee, this was his 4th AA here. He went 7th champ, 5th champ. He was 125 his first 2 years, like Coleman, and then his second 2 years, he was 133. He beat Chris Flieger in his first championship, and then he beat Tom Klum and Sean Bunch on his way to his second national championship. And this dude was a freak. So Steve Garland coached him. He was Garland's first national champ as like his guy, I guess. So Garland was just fresh off his finals appearance, and he was at Cornell helping out with Travis Lee. I've heard stories of this guy running on the treadmill until he passed out and fell, and his head would just hit the treadmill over and over again because he was from running so hard on the treadmill. This dude is absolutely insane. Garland would say that they would get into fist fights all the time. Unbelievable wrestler. And Travis Lee was the only person that really could neutralize Sean Bunch and how amazing he was and explosive and just a stud athlete and wrestler that Sean Bunch was. So, Yeah, he's unreal. I don't know how else to describe it. Just could do things that no one else could do.
Yeah. Seth, do you have a way you're leaning or any comments on these guys?
Yeah. I mean, I think Coleman Scott was a much better freestyler than folk styler, and obviously he made the Olympic team and was a monster. But I think that you got to go Travis Lee here, 2-time champ, 4-time All-American, and I don't know too much, but hearing those stories that Jack's saying, got to go this guy.
Got to admire a guy that passes out on the treadmill.
How do you even do that? I've tried, and then I said, "Nah, I'm good." I guess that was the difference between me and Travis Lee. But.
Yeah, I know.
You're just running on there like, I got to do this. Nope, I like my face too much. Never mind.
Yeah.
I got to have this thing for dates. Earl, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, if you block out the post collegiate freestyle stuff for Coleman Scott, I think you have to go Lee. Scott, I don't think was ever seeded higher than third at the NCAA tournament, so he wasn't quite as consistent as Lee was, because I think Lee was probably twice, and so some of the stuff Jack was saying, he was just amazing on his feet. The speed and quickness was incredible, so I have to give it to Lee.
Yeah. So before we have any more picks, update the Twitter poll has about 65 votes, and it is 82% in favor of Coleman Scott. So I think that's where people's comments were kind of coming from. But
it's recency bias, right? I mean,
100%.
For sure.
And Coleman's
as a coach. Yeah, he's still around, so people they're like, oh, I recognize that name. I'll vote Coleman Scott.
Yeah. I guess I'll go ahead and go next. Right now we have 2 votes for Lee, or is it 3 votes for Lee?
Yeah.
I think it's 3. Yeah. Okay. So it's already decided. But man, yeah, I'm gonna have to go the same way. Travis Lee. Jude, what you got?
Picking Coleman Scott because it's my team, and I know it doesn't mean anything, but he's my guy, so I'm not gonna pick against him.
It is not your team. It's a team that you were tasked with knowing stuff about.
I ain't no snitch. Okay. I'll just pick Scott just for the fun of it. I've watched Coleman Scott matches. I have not watched very many or any Travis Lee matches. So.
Dude, go watch it, man. You'll have a new.
Jack, send me some specific matches you'd like me to see.
Okay, I will.
But awesome. You gotta put some respect on that pin in the finals, though. That cradle was sick, man.
Dude, it's awesome. It
was sick.
Textbook, bottom leg, shelves it on the outside. Just reach up for the head, scoops it up, pins him. It's awesome.
Yeah. But there we go. Travis Lee wins that match, and we will move on to our next one. We have Tayon Ware of Oklahoma. Or is it Tion or Tayon?
Yeah.
Tion Ware? Tion Ware of Oklahoma versus Jay Jaggers of Ohio State. I think this one's going to be a really fun one to talk about. So let's go ahead and get it started. Let's change it up. Earl, can you tell us a little bit about either one or both of these guys?
Yeah, as far as Ware goes, since he's a little older, he was just amazing with defense. It wasn't always the most aesthetically pleasing to watch, but as far as the speed on his down blocks, snapping spins, like he was just behind a dude like that. For me, it's kind of hard to pick against him. Jaggers, especially in this year, he took a bunch of losses early. I think he was always trying to get down to weight, and that affected him early in the season. So I think he was seeded 6th here. He had some incredible runs. I think this year he beat the top 3 seeded guys to win his title.
He beat Kellen Russell, Charles Griffin, and Chad Mendes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty good run. But I'll go with Ware.
All right. Jack, what are you feeling on this one?
I'm going Jay Jaggers. That dude turns it on. He's unreal. Was this the one where he tore his knee out and then kept going and then won it?
He broke his ankle in the finals too, right?
Against Chad Mendes, yeah.
Oh my God.
That match is awesome. That match
I-
is
Yeah.
really good.
No, I gotta go Jay.
Yeah. So I actually literally just listened to the Jay Jaggers. I'm binging Wrestling Changed My Life. So if I ever talk about it, it's probably there. But I listened to the Jay Jaggers one last night, and it wasn't even on purpose. It was like I was working out, and I listened to when I'm working out, and one of them finished, and his just popped on next. And it ended up getting to that match, which I had literally watched yesterday. And he talked about like going over, just obsessing in his head, going over all the different situations, being in the national finals. And one of the situations he kept going over in his head was, what if I get hurt, right? I get hurt and I have to like gut it out at the end. And he talked about like when he was in that actual moment when he got hurt, and I don't know if it actually was broken or not, but you could hear him in the video screaming, I broke my ankle.
I think it was broken.
And I think it might have been. And he says, as soon as it happened, it hurt, but like I kind of realized like I'm gonna do this. Like I've been here before a million times in my head. I know what I got to do. And I think it was really cool to hear that. I also talked to my head coach over here that I coach wrestling with, DeWitt Driscoll, wrestling for Penn State during this time, and he said a lot of good things about Tion Ware, but he did say that possibly the only weakness might have been his bottom game, and that's where I think Jaggers obviously is really good on top. And so I think that that's kind of a interesting dynamic to look at. And I'm going to follow suit. And I'm going to go Jaggers. And I love watching him wrestle on top, the leg riding, the kind of Ironman-esque cradles. And I know he was before Ironman, so it's probably Jay Jagger cradles. But I just think he was a stud on top. And if he gets his shot on top, I could see some bad stuff happening. So I'm going to go Jay Jaggers.
Yeah, give me Jaggers, dude. Give me Jay Jaggers. Especially, I mean, yeah, no, it's got to be Jaggers. It's got to be Jaggers.
How is that? Is that 3 for Jaggers already?
That actually is. Seth, where are you going to go?
I was still up in the air. I think this is a good one. I probably would have leaned a little bit Tion Ware, but Jaggers does turn it on, and what he did that year was pretty crazy. I'm still going to go Ware, but it doesn't really matter at this point.
All right. Well, we went
Always
3-2.
Really quickly before we move on. I'll be very quick because I know we're struggling on time. But
You're good.
In my quarterfinals match against Joey Dance, I like snapped my ankle, tore some tendons in it, and I finished out that match, but I didn't feel it. And as soon as I like finished that match, it hurt so bad. And I tried to wrestle the next match against Ethan Lezak, and I couldn't walk. And so I got smoked, and then I defaulted out. But like the amount of respect I have for that, like the ankle injury that he had and being able to gut it out, because I knew I didn't and I couldn't. It was like amazing for sure.
Dude dealt with a lot of injuries too.
Mhm.
I mean, absolute Iron Man battling through stuff. Definitely one that I would have loved to see, though. That'd have been a good match. Next one, 149 pounds, Zach Esposito versus the Brent Calf. Again, reminder for you, if you're watching, that star next to Brent Metcalf's name means that he was the Hodge Trophy winner in 2008. And I guess I'll take it a little bit to give Jude a rest, but 2008, Brent Metcalf, this was his first year competing at Iowa. He actually started his career at Virginia Tech with the Brands brothers or with Tom Brands, and then followed him over to Iowa and lost a year of eligibility. So we only got 3 years of the Brent Calf, but this was his first year in a Hawkeye singlet. He absolutely dominated everybody on the way to a Hodge Trophy and a win in the finals over Bubba Jenkins, eventual national title, eventual national champ. So
this is the best. Jay, this is the best NCAA bracket of all time. It just is. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it is.
I mean, like, I'm just gonna throw some names out there. If you recognize them, good for you. But I don't know: Burrows, Jenkins, Caldwell, Schlater, O'Connor, Chirella, Palmer. Like, yikes, dude! It's absurd. And he did this as first year at Iowa, and oh my gosh, crazy.
Yeah. No, I was about to say the same thing, and Man, yeah, first year at Iowa. I mean, we all think back about Metcalf, and we all think about him beating Lance Palmer in those battles, and senior year Metcalf. But this might have been his best year. I don't know. I mean, at least best NCAA final or NCAA tournament. He was the 1 seed, and on his way to a final, he had to take out Lance Palmer, Jordan Burroughs, and then Bubba Jenkins. And he beat Jordan Burroughs 8-4. Not 3-2, not 2-1, 8-4. He scored 8 points. And then beat Bubba in the finals 14-8. Pretty incredible. But I'm going to stop oozing Brent Metcalf over here. Zach Esposito.
This was his junior season, his only national title. The year before, he was second, losing to Jesse Jansen in the final. In his 05 route to the national championship, he beat Eric Tannenbaum in the semis and Philip Simpson in the finals, who actually beat Zach Esposito in the round of 12 in 03 when he was the 2 seed, got upset in the second round, came back, and then lost to Philip Simpson to place. Esposito wore a funky headgear, and he was a pretty funky wrestler, actually. But he was like not the tornado, but the tornado. You know what I'm talking about? The one with the plastic that was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah. I will admit, when I went back and looking, like researching these guys, watching matches, 2005 is too far back for me to really know a whole lot about. And the first match that pops up when I search it is Esposito versus Schlater. And I'm like, heck yeah, I want to see that one. So I click on it, and it just proceeded to be a Schlater beatdown. And I was like, okay, bad one. We got to find another one. Just kept going. But yeah, I know which way I'm going. I'm going Brent Metcalf. Let's kick it to Seth.
I got Metcalf as well. I mean, that bracket that year, winning the Hodge Trophy, dominating those guys. I think, like you said, that might have been one of his best seasons, if not his best season. And he's pretty close to unstoppable. So I got to go Brent Metcalf.
And I'm before we go anymore, I'm gonna throw a major decision out too. Brent Metcalf was unstoppable this year, destroying people. And again, bringing up that Schlater match with Esposito, he I think either majored him or it was like a 7-point win. So I think Metcalf could major him. So I'm going to say major. Are you going decision or major, Seth?
Just decision for me. I think Esposito. There's no way Esposito's giving up a major.
Cool. Jude.
Oh, it's Metcalf. And I'm kind of on the fence about bonus points or not. But you know what? Why not? Let's go Brent Metcalf, major decision. That's what I'm picking.
All right. Earl, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I've got to go Metcalf. And I could go major decision just because the way they wrestled. Esposito was a guy that would try big moves, so I could see him being down by, 3 or 4 points and trying for something, getting himself put on his back. But yeah, definitely Metcalf.
I'll go Jack. Metcalf with bonus. Let's make it interesting.
All right. Metcalf, major decision.
Nice.
I also want to bring up hold on, sorry, I'm getting this. One of the matches that I watched, again, it was the wrong year, it was 2009, but one of the Brent Metcalf matches I watched that I hadn't seen before was the rematch of Metcalf Jenkins in the Big Ten finals in 2009, because those two guys met in the finals in 2018 or 2008. In 2009, they met in the Big Ten finals. Brent Metcalf beat the tar out of him.
That was ugly.
Oh my God. I mean, and he pinned him. And like it literally looked like when you were in middle school and there was that like kid everybody knew was good and he was just like playing with some new guy. Like it was bad. I mean, it doesn't really come into effect with this match, but it definitely gives me more of a push for bonus points. He was insane. Oh my God. But all right. He wins by major decision. We're going to move on to 157 pounds. Ryan Burton of Michigan versus Jordan Lean of Cornell. Jack, tell us a little bit about Ryan Burton.
Ryan Burton.
Burton.
Yeah, I got you.
Thanks.
This was his second national championship, his fourth All-American. He was sixth as a freshman, losing to Luke Becker, the eventual champ, in the quarters. In 2003, he beat Shane Roller in the quarters and Alex Terapelli in the finals. He was third in 2004 as the 3 seed, beating Johnny Hendricks in the quarters and losing to the eventual champ, Matt Gentry, in the semis. But then he beat Travis Paulson in the next round. And then as a rematch of the national championship in 2003, he beat Alex Terapelli for third. In 2005, he beat Brian Stith in the quarters, Trent Paulson, the other Paulson, in the semis, and then Joe Johnston, who had an incredible run in the finals, who was like the 8th seed. He beat number 1 seed Alex Terapelli in the quarters, and then he either beat Gentry or Percival in the semis. But, I mean, Bertine was a guy who was just unreal. I mean, Travis and Trent both coached me, and they said that he was one of the best guys that they ever wrestled, and they wrestled Perry and a bunch of other guys. And yeah, that's Ryan Bertine, someone that's not very talked about a lot, but unreal wrestler, 2-time national champ, 4-time AA.
Awesome. Jude.
Yeah.
Jordan Lean.
Okay, Jordan Lean, 157 pounds for Cornell. I believe this was his, I don't know what year this was for him. It might have been his senior year. Earl, is that correct?
Junior year.
Junior year. All right.
Yeah.
Well, but he was 8th the year before, to my understanding. And he went from 8th place to champion. Interesting thing about that, he was also the 8th seed in this bracket at 157. And he ends up beating the number 1 Gregor Gillespie, and then Josh Zupanik.
Zupanzik, I think it is.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I'm getting some of the wild names here. Yeah, and then a win over Mike Poeta in the finals. Also in this bracket was Dan Valamont of Penn State, and Kyler Sanderson. So, Michael Chandler is in here too. Oh my gosh, I'm looking through this bracket. It's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, so Jordan Lean ended up. I mean, he won 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 1-point matches, 1 2-point match. But yeah, to be the 157-pound national champion in 2008. So yeah.
All right. The Twitter poll is 68% Jordan Lean. But let's go to Seth. We haven't heard from Seth on this one yet. So what are you thinking?
I'm gonna go Ryan Bertine. And I think he just had a solid career. I think Lean had a really good tournament that year, beat some good guys, but I think this was Bertine's senior season, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, just senior, just a little bit older, a little bit more experience. Just had a better body of work, and I'm going with Bertine.
Well, the thing about Lean is that he beat Poeta, who is, he was in that best to never win it bracket you guys all did. So I don't know. Poeta is arguably
Briefly.
One of the,
Right, Jack? Briefly.
I didn't like him very much.
First round.
That's a bad argument to play here.
He hit the champ round 1.
All I'm saying, it's a oh man, that's a bad matchup. But all I'm saying is, what he beat one of the best to never win it in the finals. Upset the number 1 seed. Matt Coker was in this weight, who, funny enough, was actually from State College High School, which is like 2 minutes away from me. So pretty cool. And I'm gonna go Jordan Lean in this match. I don't know. I like the body of work he had here in this, and then that big jump, from the 8th seed. Like you said, it was one tournament, right? But again, like. That's what I'm taking here. I'm taking this national champ version of Jordan Lean, and I think he would win. So, boom, traded.
I'm gonna follow suit with you. I'm gonna go Jordan Lean as well.
Wow.
Watching matches, I really liked what I saw out of Jordan Lean. Very fast. He was very good on top. I like that, like almost Zane-like ride. Getting on top and trapping that back leg. I think he's really dangerous from that position. I think he's funky. He's fast. He looks like a guy that loves what he's doing and is wrestling free. And I'm going to go with my fellow Ginger here and pick Jordan Lean.
Yeah, I mean, I expected something like this from Jude, but not from you, Jacob. Wow.
It's not a bad take. He's a national champ.
We're all national champs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jack obviously disagrees with me. So, Jack, what are you thinking?
I'm picking Ryan Bertine. I think some people would argue that he was one of the better guys on this lineup. So, like, out of all the national champions, I think that people would say Ryan Bertine was one of the best champions of the year. Ryan Bertine was dominant. He's just a guy that he had a presence that was known as well. And obviously he kind of got out of wrestling, and that's why we haven't heard from him. And Jordan Lean's still in the sport. And there's a lot of recency bias, but I mean, just from like the firsthand experiences of Trent and Travis, who both wrestled him, they said that he was someone that was a force to be reckoned with, to say the least.
Earl,
All
how
right.
do you?
Sorry that we left you in this position, Earl, but make our decision for us.
Yeah, so this would be an interesting match, having them go against each other, just because Bertine was so slick on his feet, and as you mentioned, Jacob, Lean was just a monster on top and super physical. So I'd love to see how this would play out, but I have to go with Bertine. I agree with a lot of what Jack just said.
All right. So we're going Bertine here. That is going to make it 19-10 and lock up the duel for 2005. But we have our highlight match of the duel here coming down to the last one. We've seen it a bunch of times, but we get to talk about it ourselves. So Johnny Hendricks, Oklahoma State versus Mark Perry. A lot of backstory here. Earl, do you want to fill us in a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody's probably watched the Flow documentary about Perry, which goes into a lot of this, but they knew each other from high school, and there's a lot of history, and Hendricks always had the better of Perry up until that 2007 NCAA final. So for me, even though Perry had that last win, and it's such a cool moment, and that was the first NCAA tournament I attended in person. Even seeing all that, I still have to go with the history that Hendricks has, and pick him even over like the senior Mark Perry.
Yeah. Seth, what are you thinking?
I got to think about this. Somebody else go. I'm still
I'm ready.
back and forth.
You're good, Jack.
I'm gonna go Johnny, because I think 05 Johnny was the best version of himself. I don't think 06 was, and I definitely don't think 07 was. This was his first national championship, and he was pretty dominant in it. And I think if Johnny was wrestling 07 Perry, it would be different, and I think I'd lean Perry. But 08 Perry lost to Eric Tannenbaum in the Big Ten championships, and he wasn't as good as he was in 07. And I think that with an 07 national championship, it kind of seemed like it was do or die for Mark Perry in this finals, where he had a lot of bad blood, and he needed that win. I think 08, with the title behind him, it seemed like it was he was still amazing, but it seemed like he was a lesser version of himself. Whereas 05 Johnny was his best version. Because I don't know, if you want to go see a great Johnny Hendricks match, and one of the worst screw jobs in NCAA tournament history, other than like Ian Miller, go look up the 06 semifinals between Muzak Drakhmanov and Johnny Hendricks. This dude, I love Johnny, but he lost this match. The ref was just terrible, and everyone was on their feet booing. I'd never seen it before. Everyone was watching this semifinals match booing the ref, and he ended up getting the win. But most people
Jack,
thought.
what happened?
I can't remember exactly. Earl, do you remember?
I don't remember exactly, but I do have it on my YouTube channel, that match. So check it out. And actually, I was researching 06, so that was a match that stood out as kind of weird for him.
What's the match called?
It was like he would drop to a leg and like hang on. He won like 3-2. and people were just screaming like it was a hostile environment. Everyone was on their feet booing.
What about the Chirilla final? Wasn't that pretty controversial as well?
Exactly. Yeah, he lost that one too.
Yeah. Oh man.
I mean, 06, Johnny was not his best self. I think 05 was. He was pretty dominant. And like I said, 08, Perry wasn't his best self either.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I remember from kind of watching that documentary on Flow is that the bad blood here, they obviously were kind of rivals growing up, and then Mark Perry is the nephew of John Smith, and everybody was kind of pegging him to go to Oklahoma State, and then Oklahoma State picks up Johnny Hendricks, which is his rival, going to be his same weight, all that kind of stuff, and instead of going with his uncle, he chose to go to the rival school and compete against him. So it's a really cool story. I definitely highly recommend watching that. But for me here, it's Johnny Hendricks, and it's I think that obviously Mark Perry winning in 2008 over Hendricks in the finals is like is a big thing that people kind of get caught up on. The Twitter poll was actually 52% Mark Perry. And I think that that's dangerously wrong, because if you look back at the series, I think these guys wrestled 8 times in college. Johnny Hendricks won 7 of them. And in that finals match that Mark Perry won, in my opinion, watching it, Johnny Hendricks is in the driver's seat for the majority of the time. And then, gets turned at the end to lose. And it was kind of one of those like moments where like almost like a David Goliath kind of moment where, Perry just got the turn, and it was like a heroic win at the end. And it was definitely an upset. And it's Johnny Hendricks here. I don't think that you can go any other way, but it's obviously a really close match with these dudes.
Well, Jack, what was the match with Hendricks and what was the other guy's name?
Muzaffar Abdurakhmanov.
Oh, how do I spell
Lord.
that?
Look him up. He's an assistant coach. He's an assistant coach with Harvard.
Yeah, it's
Found it. Got it.
Okay, wait. Let me see if I got it right. Muzaffar
Yep, that was it.
Let's go.
Well done. Yeah,
that's more impressive than anything we've talked about.
I knew it.
Wow.
Where did you wrestle for? American,
yeah. They had a good run when Mark Cody was there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes our first duel. Number 1, 2005. Moving on in a match that was pretty close, pretty good match. All these matches kind of tended to go 2005's way, but a lot of them were 3-2 votes, or were closer. I guess not closer, but were close votes. So good one. 22-10. 2005 moves on. And that is it for episode number 21 of the HMA Fantasy Wrestling Podcast. We thank all of our guys again today for coming on the show. We have once again managed to turn one show into 2. We initially thought these 2 duels were going to be one show, and then we ended up talking for 2.5 hours, and nobody wants to listen to a 2.5-hour podcast, so we're going to break it down into smaller chunks for you guys and more episodes and more fun. So if you would, just stay tuned. The next episode will be dropping tomorrow, and you will be able to see the number 8 versus number 9 matchup, which was absolute fireworks. Had a lot of fun, came down to the last couple matches. And just make sure you stick with us and let us know on social media how you like it, because we absolutely love doing this, and we appreciate you guys and your involvement. And let us know. Are our picks great? Are our picks awful? Who knows? But we will see you next time on episode number 22, where we will discuss number 8 versus number 9. See ya.